And on top of that, this is I'm going to take a 180 here on what I've just been saying. This is kind of what a lot of people don't talk about this. Everybody credits Luis Elizondo for bringing out those videos to the general public. Would you agree with that sentiment that most people credit him? He's the guy that got them released to the public, right?
That's that's
the story, right? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to play a gotcha moment.
No,
just want to make sure like that I'm not just making this stuff up. Luis Elizondo told me that he never intended for those videos to go public, that he wanted to use them for an internal database for tracking unknown objects, how he termed them as drones, unidentified aerial systems, or UASs, or unidentified aerial vehicles, or UAVs, and in essence drones. And he was creating an internal DoD use only that they were going to share to industry partners, which included law enforcement, even tribal police, and they were going to create this database to track these objects. Again, mostly geared towards, at least this is how he worded it, drones. So when I was asking him these questions on this video, I did this a few years ago, and he told me that he never intended for those videos to go public. I was surprised. I asked him then, the follow-up was, well, did you know To the Stars Academy had them? And he said no. And that doesn't make sense to me. He's working for them after he retired. I'm paraphrasing this part, but he essentially said he just kind of wanted to dip back into the shadows and retire, resign, and that's it. But obviously he went into To the Stars Academy and he was introduced to them, and he was on stage within like 2 weeks. So take that for what you will. If he really didn't have this plan, this grandiose plan to come out, I'll let your audience decide that one. But when he told me that he was kind of as surprised as anybody that these videos come out in the New York Times, 2 of which in December of 2017, the third, GOFAST, in March of 2018, that he was surprised, that to me, that doesn't jive. Now, whether or not he's changed his story or not since then, I haven't seen him blatantly say, hey, I said this a few years back, but that's not true. This is the reality of it. I don't know. I'm not aware of it. So I think more people should talk about that. What is the real story here? Did he get those videos out? Well, according to him, no. And if anybody that's watching, if you're familiar with an interview, because look, I mean, I'm very interested in the story, but I don't have the time to watch every interview he's ever done. So if he did an interview and he recanted that, please let me know. But I go off of what he told me in a recorded video for my audience, which was he never intended those to go out, that it was something that he would, in his words, he said he would advise against posting them. That's what his advice would have been to the Stars. I invite anybody to look up that clip. I think a lot of people kind of ignored that, or if they did deal with it. What was very interesting
the clip on your show, you're saying?
Yeah.
And
in fact, I'll send it to you if
send it, and I'll put it right here in this in the edit.
According to the DoD anyway, those videos had to adhere to what was on that, what they call the DD Form 1910, which we didn't label it yet. But the DD Form 1910 was for that private U.S. government use only. And when Christopher Mellon had come out recently, he had said that he supplied those videos to the New York Times. Then in the James Fox's great documentary, in that, Christopher Mellon came out and said somebody, didn't name them, but somebody bent the rules. That was what his wording was, which I want to juxtapose that with how we were shown the videos from To the Stars Academy. I don't expect you to speak for To the Stars. I'm not asking you to, but I do want to ask about what they called the chain of custody, because that's another one of those disconnects where paperwork says internal use only, cleared for that. Then we see the videos and they were kind of advertised at, well, not kind of, they were advertised as going through the declassification process through DOD. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so,
what is that chain of custody?
You know, I can't speak for Chris Mellon, and quite frankly, I've never asked Chris. I don't want to know. You know, there's, I hate to say plausible deniability is sometimes a good thing, but out of respect for Chris, I've never asked him this source, and I don't really plan to be honest with you. That's between Chris and whoever he talked to. You know, how TTSA wound up putting them forward. I will tell you, if you were to ask me, I probably would have been more hesitant to do that, but it happened, and it happened without me knowing. That really wasn't.
So you had no idea that they were going to release those videos?
Not until the New York Times article. Yeah, that was not. I was not. I was not aware. So.
Were you aware they had them? If I can ask that.
No, actually. Let me think. John, I don't recall. I really don't. I don't think, because I remember being very surprised because the intent originally was for a community of interest and unclassified, but for official use only, if you will, community of interest. And I wasn't the one who provided them. So I really don't know what TTSA was thinking. You probably want to talk to them. As you know, I'm no longer publicly affiliated with TTSA. They're great people. Tom's a great guy. We still talk, but I can't speak for TTSA.
I got you. So when you look at that, what was interesting when I came out with that interview, and I kind of let the audience digest it for a little bit, and then I kind of profiled it. I clipped it out and I said, okay, like how does this kind of fit into the narrative that we've been told now for a couple of years? People move the goalposts. It's like, well, he has to lie to cover himself. Now, that's obviously not Luis Elizondo saying that those are obviously those that support him, believe in him. And so I'm separating that. I'm not saying he is making that claim. But then if that really is true and people want to move the goalposts and say, oh, you have asked these questions, he's not a liar. Then it comes out and go, well, the truth was fudged a little bit, or in this case, a lot of bit. Then those same people are like, well, okay, so he lied, but it's okay because he had to protect himself and XYZ, whatever explanation. No, if you start to think that the truth is not being given to you, then you have to ask why. Luis Elizondo has a pinned post, or it was pinned the last time I checked, that essentially he would always be honest with you. Like he went out of his way. Anybody that goes out of their way that's saying that they always are going to be honest with you always makes me question, are you always being honest with me? Why do you have to tell me that? Like, what's up with that? Not to sound paranoid, but there should be no reason to say that. I operate off of, look, if you tell me, or you say it in an interview, you're not lying. Right. That's going to be my assumption, but I'll challenge it. I guess it's the old, what is it, Reagan adage, trust but verify kind of mindset.
Yeah.
It's the same type of deal with me. I will believe someone, but I will push and try and verify it. And I think that that's what we should all do. So for him to pin that, I think people need to ask that question. What really was your intent? And when you go from 2017, the New York Times published that these were declassified by the U.S. government. That is not true. When you go from Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy saying these went through the official declassification review process for release to the public, none of that was true.
Wow.
I got a lot of crap for this. I was the original one that was pushing. These were leaks. These are unauthorized releases. That doesn't mean I didn't want to see them. That doesn't mean I don't think they're fascinating.
Yeah.
But I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. So I went after the Dopser paperwork. I went after what was called the DD Form 1910. Part of it had already leaked through George Knapp, but they removed Luis Elizondo's name when he leaked it. Why? I don't know. So there was all these weird things. So when I got all of the email chain leading up to that release, let me rephrase that, not release, but the approval for Luis Elizondo to use it for this internal database, that was kind of a big deal because you saw Luis Elizondo's wording. He described the FLIR, the gimbal, and GOFAST as balloons and drones. So why would you do that? That didn't make sense. Now I know the explanation is, well, they couldn't talk about UAP. Well, Dopser's cleared at a top secret level. They can hear whatever. So that none of that makes sense. So these are all things that have kind of built up for years that still remain unanswered. And at the end of the day, we have all these different variations of stories, many of which aren't true. And I'll close the thought with this. Chris Mellon, after quite a few years, and it was in one of James Fox's documentaries, I believe, where he essentially said that these rules were bent in order for these videos to come out. Well, all right. So now we're taking a complete turn from what we have been told by the New York Times, by Politico, by TTSA, by Luis Elizondo, by everybody. And rules were bent to get these things out. And he says, I even have pictures of the wrapper that they came in.